Hi, everybody. This is Richard Palfrey on Fitness Without Filter, recording in a different location today, different environment, different audio visuals. Hopefully, it all comes out well. It's a solo episode, so you're only looking and listening to me and my ugly mug. I'm out in the country, so I've not been trimming the beard. I look a bit different. I may sound a bit different because there's colds going around, but hey, hopefully, it all comes out well. Today, I'm going to be talking about our mindset and how our mental connection to self and to exercise and everything else relates to health and fitness. That comes from conversations I've had lately, but also some bullet points I've had down for questions for future podcast guests. Okay, so first things first. Then, by the way, I'm getting through my coffee as we do this because why not? Um, First topic then is, why do people exercise? Why does someone start exercising? Why do they start going to the gym? What's the motivation behind it? Now, of course, there is the obvious fitness and health goal. Okay, maybe you're out there in the world and you decided, for your benefit of your health, your longevity, I'm going to start doing more than I currently do, or more than I have done in the past. So you start getting outside for a walk. You start doing things outside in a sporting environment or socially, whatever it might be. Fantastic. More power to you. Maybe you sign up for a gym and you start going with that. You start to improve your strength, your cardiovascular fitness. Again, all positive, fantastic goals. Good for you. All right. That's the kind of thing we'd expect. Why do people start exercising and all the rest of it? For some people, it's because they think they should. Maybe they've reached a certain age where they maybe have got the time or the inclination to start taking better care of themselves. Normally, the kind of thing you see around retirement age, people start going for walks with their friends. They start doing all that kind of thing in a social environment. For others, it's January again. I've spent the last 2, 3, 4 weeks at parties, with work, with friends, with family. I've eaten more than I should. I've eaten a lot more than I should of certain foods. I've been drinking as well. So shit, let's rein it back in to see if we can balance out the one with the other. And of course, the fitness industry knows this and exploits this, because that's when you see all these offers of join the gym, get so-and-so free, get this incentive package, gift, whatever it might be. Because again, having worked in commercial fitness for some time at the start of my career, you see people going, hey, guess what? I've got a capacity for 100 members, really? But if I can get 300, 400 to join in January, knowing full well that they're going to come for a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, if they ever really show up, but they will sign up to have that monthly deduction from their bank accounts and probably will forget to cancel for 6 months. There we go. That's my biggest push out of the income for the year. And so the cycle continues. So that's two examples there. Going beyond that, for a lot of people, and I have seen this around the world, it's not something that's indicative of a developed nation. It's not a first world thing. A lot of the time, people may start joining a gym and going to classes or whatever it might be because there's a lot going on in their lives, and they think that by addressing a goal, an objective, and doing something positive towards that goal, it will counter the stresses they've got going on elsewhere. All right. So, say for example, you've got a stressful relationship, your marriage is having some issues, some ups and downs. You've got a bit of a turbulent relationship maybe with your teenagers. Maybe it's your work environment's becoming high stress. Maybe it's just college, schooling, whatever it might be. There's a lot on your plate. You're feeling maybe a bit overwhelmed. There's all kinds of things building up, building up, building up. Shit, oh, come on, I want something to be mine. I can do as a distraction, if nothing else. I'll join a gym, because at least then I've got an out for a lot of the other stresses going on, and go, yeah, sorry, I can't do that this evening, or I've got to have a break from this because I've got a gym appointment. I'm seeing a trainer, or I've booked to do a class. So it gives them a distraction from everything else going on in their life. It's not necessarily the best motivation or disciplinary factor to keep you going. It's certainly not one that's going to contribute to your long-term health, because you're not addressing the sources of the stress or what's going on. You're giving yourself a distraction. And for some people, that can lead to positive changes. I've seen that happen. But for a lot of other people, it's a sideways step to improving their overall lifestyle. It's just a distraction. So that's 3 examples right there. Now, for another one, genuinely, and I've been there personally as well. I've seen it in a military environment. And for some people with a degree of stress and domestic issues, for some people, joining a gym or going running or cycling or whatever it is, it's a retreat. It's a chance to hide from what else is going on in their lives. Or maybe they're quite introverted as a person and they have their bubble. they have their work, their education environment, they have their home environment, their family, whatever it is, and they don't want much of a world beyond that. They're happy. So to maybe sometimes get out of that a little bit, they'll go off to the gym. They'll go in the quieter hours, or maybe they'll be back of the class, and they don't want to be seen. They don't want to be interacted with, and everything else. But as I said, for some people, it is to hide, because you want to not be seen by the world. You want to be left alone. Again, coming from my military background, there are times where, shall we say, I was in less than a healthy mental place, where I couldn't deal with having one more busy part of my life, one more place where there was noise, there was just distraction going on. So out of everything else I was doing in my daily life, I'd be going to the gym at midnight or 2 or 3 in the morning, because I knew I would be the only person in there. So I could go in there and I could have my headphones in, and I wouldn't have to interact with anybody. I wouldn't have to acknowledge anyone at the front door. I would just be on base in the gym, lights on, music on very loud, or even say, or my headphones, and I could just be in there for 1, 2 hours and just blast away angrily, sometimes, if we're honest, sometimes because we're a little bit sad, sometimes because we've got just a need to put effort into something, to get something out of ourselves. Now, I come from speaking a male military standpoint there. I know for a lot of people serving in the forces or emergency services or law enforcement, that the need to get that out, that direction of focus and energy sometimes is very, very, very positive for your mental health. Coming from, again, personal standpoint, friends I know that are police officers, paramedics. I know, remember, from the COVID era, so long ago, from that time during lockdown, Eddie Hall, the strongman competitor and world's strongest man at one point, was saying that in the UK, the closure of gyms and everything else, the government had no concept, they couldn't have, of the impact specifically on men's mental health, because that's still a retreat that men have to go to and go, right, I can just focus, I can be aggressive, I can be left alone, there's no other impact on my mental focus here, and just push. To take that away from us, for those people who couldn't exercise at home and didn't have that facility, could be very, very dangerous. Now, hopefully that wasn't a significant impact in anyone's mental health. I'm sure it was, but hopefully it was a minimal impact. So that's an example of, I think, why people sometimes go to exercise. Hopefully, certainly coming from a health and fitness professional standpoint, it's always for a positive one. Sometimes it's a band-aid on a different kind of issue or a distraction from the situations, as we talked about. And for others, it's salvation. It's a retreat. It's a place of, I can just be alone here. Even if you're not alone, you can be in a corner of the gym. You can be looking in a direction where you don't see anyone else's. You don't get eye contact with anybody else. You have your headphones in. You're in your own bubble, and it's what you need. Sometimes that's all we need it for. And I think that's something that's undervalued in the health and fitness industry, is the fact that mental focus, mental health, in terms of just peace, is what we do give our clients, is what we do give our members, if we regard them as worth the time and effort. So sometimes all the neon colors and TVs and noise isn't the best thing. Sometimes it's just being left the fuck alone on the gym floor. Okay, so moving on then. Second point to talk about, I've got here on my notes. So if you see my eyes looking to one side, if you're watching this, I'm looking to the notes I've got on my screen. Why do people sometimes struggle with their goals, and why do some people just seem to be able to just nail it down and really, really focus and deliver on what they're trying to achieve? Well, again, going from my experience here and what I've seen in terms of myself and my clients, and just general conversations I've had with people in a fitness environment, some people can see the long term and the short term, and they can understand a process where they make these changes to begin with, and they start to see a modicum of change, improvement, adjustment to their quality of life, all for the better. Then they're sold on the process, and those steps become more consistent, more regular, more expansive, and the lifestyle changes, and there they are, they're successful. Fantastic. That's the route we wish everybody could take, everybody could achieve. What you do start to see, and I've seen this in teenagers and people in their 40s and everyone in between, and 50s, etc., is that for a lot of people, because they have no recognition for what they could be like with a lot of those changes put into place, they don't see themselves in that position, or they don't see themselves being successful at the end of a 10K or a marathon or whatever else. They put their objectives on a pedestal. It's an insurmountable mountain, sometimes literally, that they can't climb. So rather than dig in or try and find a mentor to help them out or any kind of assistance for the process, they back away. They see this as a goal that I can't achieve. I don't believe I can ever be the person who's taking charge of their health, able to regularly put together healthy meals, to do a good high quality grocery shop on a weekly basis, to get themselves in the gym, get themselves out, for a bit of fresh air. It becomes an unrecognizable lifestyle for them. They don't think they can achieve it, so they don't bother. They put their brakes on and go, you know what? I can't be this person. I don't believe I could be someone who is more active, more positive, I've got more self-confidence, I've got more sexual confidence and awareness because I've been a little bit introverted for all the kinds of reasons that a person might be. So they hold themselves back. It's not the family, it's not the friends, it's not the coach or the trainer that's causing them to doubt themselves. It's their own sense of self-image. I don't believe I can be successful. I don't believe I can achieve. I don't think I could be this person at the end of the journey, so they never even start. And unfortunately, that can hold a lot of people back. It can keep them in poor health. It can keep them in a negative sense of self-esteem. So my goal, often with a lot of people I speak to, even if they're never going to become a client of mine, is to get them to see the positives on a daily basis. And I've said this before in social media videos. Go, right, you are a success. If you're an adult right now in the world, you can pay your bills, you have a job, or you employ people, maybe it's highly stressful, but you do. If you have a job, if you can pay your bills, if you have a roof over your head, if you have any degree of positive relationships with other people, all the kind of things that you attribute to a normal lifestyle, if you have those, you are a success because you've got that far. So there's no reason at all why you couldn't start looking at improving your quality of your lifestyle, improving your social environment, increasing your friend circle, going, I want to have this health and fitness goal for some time down the road, and I'm going to start. Tomorrow is day one. Today's some planning. Tomorrow we start. You can do it. Stop putting the goals on a plinth and looking up to it going, oh my God, if only, other people can do it, I can't. That mindset is incredibly, incredibly restrictive. Try and get away from that, because believe me, I've seen so many people in my career achieve what they never thought they could once they get that modicum of self-belief based in the reality of their lifestyle. You don't have to suddenly switch to becoming this perfectionist, shiny idol on social media. You just have to start. Honestly, that is the most simple step and advice I can give anybody. You just have to start. All right. Okay. So let's have a coffee. I'm going to go again. What does healthy and getting healthy mean for a relationship? Haha. So this can be an interesting one. And this topic is inspired in part by a message I got from a video I posted on my YouTube a little while ago, the Ask a Personal Trainer series. Okay, so what does healthy health mean for a relationship and the connections between people? Okay, so again, we would like to believe that if you're in a relationship with someone, you're a long-term relationship, you're happily married, all the kind of good stuff, that one of the parties decides, you know what, I'm going to take up something active. I want to get fitter. I want to take charge of my lifestyle. I want to become stronger. I want to get rid of the aches and pains I have for whatever reason. It's because maybe I spend a long time stationary in my job. I'm not as active as I was 10 years ago, whatever it might be. They start on a positive mindset. They inspire their partner to either join them in what they're doing or take up their own new hobbies and everything else. And all's well and good. Fantastic. And that does happen in some cases, and it's a great thing to see. However, in some ways, it can actually be detrimental to the relationship. It can even be destructive to the relationship. Both the things I've seen, some of which I've witnessed in person, both in my relationships of the past and of friends of mine. Let's unpack that one then. Okay. So what we've got to think about here is, in any adult relationship, I'm not coming to you as a relationship guru, believe me. But in any relationship, the people involved in that relationship have their own idiosyncrasies. Okay, as I would see it, they have the things that they're strong on, the things that they may be weak on, their preferences, their dislikes, all those kind of things. And when you come together in a relationship, you compromise the pros and cons of all these kind of things, and you merge together. You're happy. There you are. You're in a relationship. All good. Now, with all that, there's an understanding, of course, that in certain aspects and certain fields, one person is the more assertive, the more dominant, the stronger. The other person is going to be moderately submissive. And that can go back and forth depending on the nature of your relationship. Maybe one person's got a higher professional drive. The other person's stronger in terms of the family sensibilities. The other is a little bit questionable in terms of their relationship with money, for example. The other person's got a strong grasp of that, but it all works to build a healthy relationship, and the dynamic is built and issues from there. However, going forward, what can happen is the individual, if it's only one of those individuals who starts to improve their quality of their life, they start to exercise, they start to see a change in their physique, they start to improve their relationship with food, they become more confident, they become a stronger person, and that translates into things that maybe anyone watching, listening to this doesn't really take into consideration on a tangible basis because it happens over a period of time. But if you've seen it in yourself or with someone, these points will ring true. Your wardrobe will change because your body changes. So you can wear clothes that you otherwise couldn't wear comfortably or didn't like to wear because of however you perceive your own appearance. Your wardrobe will change. Your relationship to yourself will change. You will become socially more confident. People will relate to you a little bit differently because you're seen as someone who's proactive in their health and their lifestyle. Your self-esteem and your sexual confidence will change. Now, that is a big one because your personal confidence might relate to your job or your domestic environment, whatever it might be. Your sexual confidence is inherently based in your self-esteem. If you consider yourself to be someone who is taking charge of themselves, that is relatable in how you carry yourself. If you consider yourself to be, I'm not unattractive, that comes out in how you carry yourself. Maybe you see yourself getting more social interaction in your daily life because you are taking charge of yourself, because you do look more attractive, because your wardrobe's changed. You are growing into a different kind of person. Now, again, in the happy Disney-esque world, both parties in a relationship experience that and all is good. The reality of that, if it's one-sided, is often the fact that your dynamic is now changing, not necessarily through design, but the person who was maybe a little bit more introverted or just extrovert, but in different aspects, they are now changing who they are. So when you got together in your relationship, the pros and cons of that compromise that helped your relationship have now changed. Maybe you're not submissive on certain points. Maybe you want to do new things. You've got new hobbies, new interests. Your social circle has expanded. All this kind of things. So you're not quite the same person you were when you started that relationship. And that can cause a lot of disconnection. You can cause a lot of, hopefully not physical, but a lot of headbutting on certain points. Maybe you want to be doing things on the weekend now. You've been invited to this sporting club or you want to take part in social things you never used to beforehand because you've met people in the gym, you've been attracted to new interests and all that kind of thing. I've seen that in a few relationships, actually, when I was doing more triathlons and obstacle races, that kind of stuff, where all of a sudden I've done one. Hey, I want to do one next month, which means I want to up my training, where I'll spend more time in that kind of social circle. And that starts to impact the relationship back home. Hopefully, it's not a situation where you've got children, you've got a family environment, and it's less damaging, dare I say that, for a couple relationship. But those things do start to happen. So the question becomes there is then, does the relationship survive? That's an individual thing, but I've seen it flourish as a result of people's relationships. Compromises can be made again, things change. You've got your hobby that you didn't have before, that's cool. I'll branch out into my hobby, all good. Maybe I'll come and join you. And sometimes it causes changes that cause a relationship to flounder. All right. So that's my take on what impact does health and becoming healthy mean for a relationship. I'm not being down on them. I'm not knocking them. I think people who have active interests as a couple, fantastic. If you have a more sedentary or different lifestyle, hey, I'm not knocking you. But I think that's a conversation that some people don't have with themselves when they take up new hobbies is, how will this impact my relationship, my marriage? Because why would you think about it until it gets to a point where your circumstances change? Okay, going on to the next point then. Okay, so talking about honesty and self-reflection. Okay, kind of ties on with what we just talked about, really. The idea being that some people can really, really get off running and storm off towards their objective. Other people struggle, and what can be behind that? But we're talking now about self-awareness. Okay, now what I think here we've got to look at is that for those people who can be successful, they can have what I call an honest conversation with themselves. They can look at themselves and go, right, here's me at this point in my life, whatever age and time it is. Here's how I've been living up to this point. And this is the result. This is what I look like, feel like, how I act, my relationship with food, exercise, socially, all of those things have got me to this point. This is the package, the results. I would like to change this. I would like to go forward and become something different, change this, become a healthier, all the kind of things you would want to have it as a healthy, happy person. Here's how I go about doing it. Fantastic. All of which I'd like to see. For people who perhaps don't do so well with that, there is a fundamental flaw where I think with their sense of honesty. It's very, very often an inability to have an honest, introspective conversation, to look at themselves, to reflect on how they live right now, their attitudes to certain things, their relationship with food, their social environment. Maybe they've got bad influences, bad friends. Just be honest. Sometimes that's the case. You end up in a bubble, a sphere where you think you belong, you think everyone's on the same wavelength to you, and you can reinforce that over time, and that can lead you down a less than healthy path. Maybe you've got quite a heavy social circle, heavy drinking social circle. Maybe you've got people who just like to eat out all the time and not eating very well. All the kind of things that might influence your health and physicality. But a lot of people do not like the idea of introspection, an idea of a self-assessment, even if it's, and I've done this with people, give them a pen and paper and say, look, you don't have to show me the results. Like, I'm not going to be nosy and try and comment on this. Here's a pen and paper. Just go down now, over there, just away from me for a second. Just write down some notes about yourself, 2 columns on a bit of paper. Comment on how you see yourself when it comes to relationship with food, exercise, how you looked after yourself in the past, what you would like to do in the future, and down the other column, write how you go about implementing that. And for some people, it's a very, very real struggle, because to comment on yourself, you have to acknowledge your good points and your not so good points. And there are a lot of people who really, really don't like the idea of doing that, especially I think in the modern era where everything is all about an outward projection of, I'm awesome, I'm wonderful, I'm perfect. Look at my lifestyle, look at my relationship, look at my hobbies. Don't I look great in this picture that's heavily, heavily edited with Photoshop and filters and all that kind of crap? To look at the reality, the behind the scenes, and you start to pick away at that. You don't want to make yourself depressed and miserable, but can you really have an honest conversation about that? And I went to some lengths years ago to put together what I called a self-audit to give to prospective clients to go, okay, again, I never want to see this. And if you want to share it with me, then that's fantastic. But I would like you to, I'm going to email it to you, just read through it and look at yourself in relation to some of the questions I've asked you to ask of yourself. And my goal is that when you come back to me, if you come back to me as your trainer and your coach, to go, right, okay, I know these 4 points aren't the best that they could be in my life. I want to go and change them. I'm going to do 3 of these myself. I've got this down. Can you help me with this one? Fantastic. We can do that. We can build the best structure for you, because self-education when it comes to your health is often the very best form of doing it. The experience that you get from trying certain things, you learn what works, you learn what doesn't, and you prosper and go from there. Fantastic. And again, some people on the other side of that don't like the idea of honest self-assessment. Okay. If you give someone the idea of a food diary, now I don't do the anal picking apart of this calories, that calories, weigh this, measure this. Did you have four bites of this, or all that kind of shit? It's generally destructive. It's a negative experience for a lot of people. So when I've done that in the past, what I'll do is I'll give someone a blank template for a week and go, right, fill this in, backdated for the last week. What have you eaten and drunk? Not because I want to judge you by that, but let's be honest. Let's have a snapshot into your lifestyle. And they go away and fill it out and come back. And before I even look at it, I'll go, right, have you been honest with me? Have you been honest with yourself? Are there things on there that you have, maybe you drank more than 1 glass of wine at that social event last weekend? If you did, I'm not judging, but are you being honest with yourself? Sometimes they go, yeah, you know what? I had 3 or 4. Okay, cool. Let's put that down there. Let's be honest. Let's have a snapshot of what you are doing before we can move forward to help you get more of a handle on things. And it's generally met with a positive attitude, because someone goes, yeah, you know what? Why am I doing that? And hopefully you can get someone to relate themselves in a positive mindset, because unfortunately, harping back to the point we just talked about with putting goals on a pedestal, the idea of becoming healthy for some people means they have to see themselves as negative in the past. Oh yeah, you know what? I've eaten like shit. I've been a lazy bastard. I don't really put any effort into myself. Ugh. No. Get away from that and just go, right, here's where I am now. No judgment. bang, let's go forward, all for positive. Fantastic. Okay. So raising an issue then, as we're going to wrap up, I phrased it sometimes in this very, very simple question where someone says, well, I kind of look after myself, or I'm okay, I don't make much of a change. And I go, or the modern disassociation of personal responsibility, which is, oh yeah, but food these days is labeled a certain way. I don't really know what I'm eating, and I can't seem to lose weight. I keep gaining weight, in fact, and I'm always like, do I need to exercise? Because I heard this thing about how I only need to do 2,000 steps, not 10,000 steps a day, and I can lose the same amount of weight. I go, whoa, right, okay. This disassociation with, you're the one in charge of your life. You're responsible for yourself. Okay, let's not start putting things on other people. Let's look at you. So I sometimes ask these two questions. How long did you spend in prison, in solitary confinement? Well, I've never been in prison. Right, okay. So you've always had control over the amount of time you spend active. Ah, there we go. Okay. And the second one is, how long were you in a coma for? I've not been in a coma. I've never had that. Right. So you've never been subject to only being fed through a tube. No. Okay. So as an adult, you've always had control of what you eat and drink. Yes. Now, obviously, that's going to an extreme of situations, but acknowledging that you are in charge of yourself and your physicality and the attitude and application of exercise, brilliant. It's now balls in your court. When it comes to eating and drinking, you're not being force-fed. You're not subject to what someone else gives you as you were when you were a child. You have the ability to look after yourself, to make decisions, to choose where you get your groceries from, to choose where you eat, where you buy your snacks, and to how much and how often you eat these things. Great. So there's no excuse, is there? Right. Okay. So the summation of that is to simply go, when you look at yourself, wherever you've got to, wherever you've been throughout your life to this point, think, okay, I'm not a bad person. I would like to make some positive, healthy changes to myself. I'm not going to critique myself because maybe sometimes in the past I didn't do things for my own best health. But you know what? So what? At this point, going forwards, positive, healthy, honest. Let's go. Let's have it. Let's not be afraid of the goals we're going to have in our future. Let's not judge ourselves harshly because you know what? Fuck it. No one is perfect. I say that as someone who's perfectly honest. I am not perfect. I've had a weekend where I said, I'm not in my normal environment. I'm doing things differently. I had some fantastic meals yesterday that weren't what I would call the best for my health. And you know what? I'm doing the same today before tomorrow, Monday morning, I start back into my conventional, normal working routine. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up now. I hope that's been interesting for those of you who watched it or listened to it. I will endeavor to get back on track on the normal guests and everything else for podcasts. So I wish everybody out there the best when it comes to their health and fitness experience, as always. Okay, whatever it is you're going to do, I wish you success. Take care, and I'll see you in the future.